What's up, everyone? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick.
I'm Jammin John.
I'm Shredlord.
And we have an album review for you. Now, one that was kind of on our radar, mostly on my radar just because I have this band's debut album and I really, really loved it, was the newest one from Dvne, with a V. Etemen Ænka. This came out on the 19th of March on Metal Blade Records. This is their Metal Blade debut. This band formed technically in 2015 in Edinburgh, Scotland. They were known as Dvne, simply with a U, from 2013 to 2015. This is their second full length, and they also have 3 other EPs. I was a big fan of their first album, Ashran. I think it's absolutely amazing, and I was really kind of hyped to see these guys make the next step, get on a bigger label, and really get their sound exposed. And what their sound is kind of a blend of a lot of different things. You have sludge metal, stoner metal, doom metal, maybe post-metal and progressive metal, sort of all kind of homogenized into this big, sludgy, atmospheric sound.
A heavy metal casserole, if you will.
Thick and meaty and cheesy. Well, not cheesy.
A lot of hooks.
A lot of hooks.
Like the shepherd's pie of...
Hook laden.
That's more Irish. We're talking Scottish, so
this
maybe
is fucking haggis.
Haggis. There we go.
That's...
You unsophisticated.
I'm sorry, I'm a real piece of shit.
We're not going to argue. Opening track, Enuma Ellis, pretty much sets the pace. I believe this was the first single they put out, and it pretty much does what you hear a lot on here. This is a lot of like building tension and releasing it and sort of kind of carrying on like a big, heavy, droney sound and layering it. So those elements of like post-metal really kind of come through, like, you know, bands like Neurosis and Isis, in terms of how you start off with one layer and then build on another and another and sort of build to big crescendos. This is exactly what this does, except with sort of like a stoner metal sort of feel along the way.
With a lot more ingredients from the outside. So being someone who's never listened to this band before, the first thing I noticed is that they wear their influences on their sleeve pretty heavy. I definitely caught a immediate Baroness, Mastodon kind of vibe right from the get-go.
Agreed.
Yep, also agreed. Also include Russian Circles, Pelican,
yeah,
Isis.
Yeah.
Etc.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. And I mean, I think Tool is one that is definitely important to bring up, just because when it comes down to their more progressive leanings, I think that's the band that their closest, comparison can be made there. They pretty much do a lot of the same stuff, like sort of like dropping out material and building in with those kind of syncopated tribal drums, sort of breathy vocals. And the vocals in here are interesting because you get kind of a wide swath, and I didn't realize they actually had a female keyboardist. In fact, on Encyclopedia Metal, they still had a male keyboardist listed. And she actually contributes vocals too. There's actually spots where she throws in.
I was right. I thought I heard female vocals, and he was like, no.
They didn't have anyone listed.
And I was like, well, I think they do.
And it's really interesting. You got like low bellows and like kind of raspy roars, and then like clean singing, which can range from like very Maynard-ish to almost more like just straight up 90s alt rock, which I thought was very interesting.
The singer kind of sounded like the guy from Textures to me at times.
Yes.
That,
which I like.
And then also at times Troy Sanders and Ron Daler, like there was a mixture of that going
kind of
on
a dynamic.
I mean, there are a fair amount of like vocal harmonies on here too. But I mean, generally I latched on to most of the parts with like the heavier vocals, and they're really good about like shifting the mood and the feel of the song. Like when they really get down to the proggy stuff.
In the song Towers, Shred did a vocal thing. I didn't know he was on the record, but he did some really epic fucking vocals.
I'm a crooner from the lunar realm, and I know how to bite the apple. And if you're a real singer, you know how to bite the apple. You gotta motherfucker. But I don't want to give all my secrets away, so we'll just continue on with the review.
You'll have to buy all 4 of his DVDs for $19.99 a minute.
Oh, give me that coin, motherfucker.
I've only seen 4 minutes of his first DVD.
Changed your life, didn't it?
$80, dude.
Changed your life.
It better change.
Yeah, it made him $80 poorer.
Yeah.
That technically changed your life, didn't it?
I could have bought something else for $80.
Well, I did, and I want you to know it's magnificent.
When it comes down to the proggier moments on here, Omega Server, I think, was probably the one that illustrated it the most in terms of like the peaks and valleys and sort of like shifting around moods and such. And I really enjoyed this one. Like, this was kind of like the adventure of a song.
I didn't like it at first. For about the first minute or two, I was like, and then it kicked in and it got really, really, really good. It ended up being one of the strongest tracks, I think, on the album.
I just didn't like the beginning of it because this is where the pop core
the
vocals
90s,
were like, are the panties supposed to fall off at this point?
Or at least be moisturized.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it was closer to like Candlebox, except with like, you know, Mastodon guitars behind it. Really kind of an odd mix there. But as the song kept going, it started like building into different modes there. You had like big, heavy, like nasty, sludgy riffs. Heavier than a sandworm on Arrakis. I am going to make some Dune references. I have to. And another thing I liked in this song was the transitions. The transitions complemented the shifts in mood too. And that's what kind of gave it the whole big adventure feel in terms of like the roller coaster.
They didn't do bad with the transitions. There were a couple that were real abrupt, but they worked.
Sometimes that can be exactly what you want, man. Just that, you know, the gut punch change,
right,
the fucking...
I mean, if you're shifting from like, you know, a really soft part into a like an abrupt, explosive, like heavy spot, I kind of like that. I kind of like those shifts, but I like the big buildups, which is kind of most of the dynamics on here. They like that kind of slow, labored build. They want to like keep building, add another layer, keep building, add another layer, and then explode into like a big crescendo. Except that's never like the end of the song. That's like 8 different movements in there. There was kind of an issue in here where a lot of repeated dynamics, but they're good ones. I felt at one point that I had listened to the end of Tool's The Grudge like 4 times, but I like that song, and I like the ending of that song, so I was like, well, you know, I can almost forgive it because it's a really good dynamic. I just, you know, hearing prog in their descriptors, I kind of wanted like a little bit more adventurous stuff outside of that.
Yeah, I wanted some more dynamic. Especially because this band likes to make longer songs, you know, 9, 10, 11, 12-minute songs. That's cool, but you got to keep the attention flowing. And so if you're going to label yourself as prog and make a 9-minute song, possibly pepper in some more shit.
I think it had dynamics, but I think they kept going back to the same dynamic.
Yes, that's what I mean.
They kept reusing the same dynamic structure in every song, and I mean, it worked to a degree, but after a while, your ear does trail off just a little bit.
Gets a little old.
And when it comes down to like the stoner metal moments, and again, that's one thing that I think of as different than that. I think of like, you know, like The Sword and High on Fire. There are a few moments in here that are stripped like that, but I kind of could have used more that were just straight up stoner metal moments. Like, give me a good solid riff, give me a good solid groove, and dry hump that thing. The song C14, which is si-xiv, Roman numerals, that one actually has a section in there where this giant stoner metal riff just kind of comes in, and it just keeps a simple 4/4 groove. It's not trying to do anything off time or anything flashy. And honestly, it was kind of one of the most refreshing moments on here just because, like, dude, all right, this sticks to the roots of stoner metal a little bit. And honestly, it changed the dynamic a little bit. It was, granted, more stripped down, but it was different. And it kind of brought in a different kind of energy. It was heavier and a little bit, like, chunkier. Like, they just stuck to a big, meaty riff, and it worked.
It was heavier. It starts out heavier, and then it does move into kind of like a sword vibe. The problem I found with that, though, is it also sounded like every other band that sounds that way. All of those influences that we mentioned, like, they stuck so close to that sound, it didn't really deviate from that at all.
It's an amalgamation. It really does sound like that. Like, literally all the bands that we listed before, it really kind of sounds like a blend of all of those things, which isn't bad, but at the same time, it kind of stagnates after a while. And this is a long listen. This is an hour and 7 minutes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it can kind of grate on you. Plus, you have these interludes on there, which some are
That's what I was going
really
to bring
good.
up. Yeah. To me, they were maybe not necessary. I would perhaps infuse them into the song as opposed to, you know, this is the flavor we haven't really talked about. The one flavor they used is, you know, lately everybody's into the John Carpenter Stranger Things thing. And,
which is fine.
Opeth did it, you know, like, it's cool, but...
And I love Dark Sense.
Yeah. I think instead of them being instrumental tracks on their own, 2 or 3 minutes, that maybe you could have cut something shorter or just found a way to fuse it into a song. It just felt kind of weird.
Or
being on
not
its
do
own.
it that many times. Like, they did it, 3, 4 times?
3 or 4
like,
times.
There are 3 times.
Yeah, 3 times. It was cool the first time. All right? It was cool a little bit the second time, but by the time you get to the third time, you're like, why?
Honestly, it was the first time that I didn't like it, and then the other 2 times I think they were employed better because they actually led into the next song well. I don't like interludes very much at all, or intros, but if they lead in well to the next song, all right, it kind of complements it. Does it need to be a separate track? No, I don't think so. Now, some of these passages did work. Asphodel actually has, well, I mean, it has all the weird droning atmosphere that's in there, and honestly, it's strange in here because it goes from like sci-fi, kind of dark and creepy sounding. Honestly, it reminded me of what you would hear during the opening credits of Alien. And then the female vocals started coming in, and it instantly kind of shifts to folky territory. And honestly, I mean, I think of like Scottish folk music, but me being me, I instantly thought of Highlander. So we got 2 universes very crossed over that, you know what? I would actually watch that movie.
And they're both sung in a mortuary.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds creepy, and it's a really good lead-in to the last track, Satuya.
Suck it to ya, baby.
I'm gonna kick you right in the Satuya.
No, we won't. Which is the longest song on here. This is the 11-minute big closer, and honestly, I mean, I kind of liked how the intro built it up, and it does have a fair amount of movements in it for an 11-minute song, though it doesn't really kind of cap off the album particularly well. Like, it really dry humps one, like, big section after the next big section. There aren't, like, the big adventures on there. Again, that's what I kind of look for in longer songs, peaks and valleys. And that was kind of missing there. Like, you know, we heard it pretty much right away with Towers. Towers isn't necessarily peaks and valleys. It's essentially an avalanche of different sounds and riffs and such. It really doesn't take much of a break into the end of that song. This is kind of the same way. Like, it kind of just shoehorns movement into movement without really kind of doing like a lot of clever transitions in between that would kind of like grip you like, ooh, that was a really cool movement. That was very proggy. It's just heavy, but it's still good. I don't know, it's just missing something.
So let's get down to the nitty gritty, the ratings. I'm going to give this album a 3.5. I think this was a very well done album. I think it drew from a lot of influences that I enjoyed either today or in the past. I think if I can knock it for 2 things, I think it clung a little hard to the influences on the sleeve, and I would have made it a little bit shorter somehow, some way. But other than that, it's a very solid listen, and this is the first thing probably this year that has sounded like this, so it's a nice change of pace as well.
I'm also going to give it a 3.5. Kind of like Shred said, you know, all the bands that this does cling to influential-wise are bands that I've loved for a very long time. If I could, again, knock it, I would say maybe, again, don't cling so hard to those influences. Think, if you're going to market yourself as a prog band, you got to go a little bit outside the box. And, you know, it did it at times, but it was a little bit too repetitious at other times. It's a solid jam. For me, at least, it'd be a great record for sexy time.
Your hand likes this album?
My hand loves this album, dude. Loves it. Loves it. Meet my girlfriend. Right there.
Jill.
Oh, God. Can you see the hair? This is in high def.
Yep. Waves like Natalie Portman's hair.
I'm also going to agree with you guys and give it 3.5.
Because we're right.
Yep.
I mean, I like it. I do like it. I think it is a solid album. I like their first one a little bit more just because I think they actually put like more influences in there. This one, it kind of labors the same dynamics a little bit too much. Granted, they are good dynamics. I just think there's more in their wheelhouse. I think the synths are a really good addition. They do complement the atmosphere well, and this is layered beautifully. The production's really solid on it. It just didn't grab me as much as their first one. I just think they need to get kind of outside of all those influences that we've listened to here and, you know, are kind of pretty much permeating this entire album. It's a good album. I still recommend jamming it. I still recommend picking it up. I'm going to get my copy too. And I mean, if you like droning stoner metal with some prog influences, I strongly recommend you check this one out.
So, if you enjoyed the video, please hit the like and subscribe if you are not a member of our community, because number 1, we would love you, and number 2, we would also appreciate it. Because we're appreciative guys like that.
I appreciate you.
Thank you.
That's what I appreciate about you.
So, on behalf of the Thralls of Metal, we wish you adieu. Adieu.